everyone to the Mindful Magazine channel. Today I have with me Helen Rebello. Thank you so much for coming on the channel.
My absolute pleasure. I'm really excited to talk to you and thrilled to contribute and share and talk about magic.
Yes, I'm really happy to have you here. So for everyone who's watching, Helen is an intuitive mentor. She's a self-development teacher. She was a former tutor of the College of Cranial Sacral Therapy in London. And recently she published a book, amazing book, The Magical Unfolding, 8 Magical Processes for Peace, Potential and Purpose. And that's basically what we're going to talk about today. Could you tell me a bit more about yourself and maybe what led you to writing this book?
Yes, I'd love to tell you more about myself, and I'll try and keep it succinct because it's quite a story. But in a nutshell, I started my life quite early on knowing I wanted to write and I wanted to be one day an author. I think I knew that from the time I was about 8 years old. And I ended up, I always did really well at English and I loved words. I love things like Alice in Wonderland and I love the Narnia books, you know, and I've always loved that sense of kind of magic and escapism. But inevitably, life came along and did its thing, which I won't go into too much because the book goes into it a bit more, but it came along, did its thing, and I ended up leaving home at 18 and going off the rails quite significantly. And then when I kind of came round from the craziness and decided I needed to be a bit more responsible, I thought I'd better do something vocational, and I was ignoring my instincts to do an English degree, and instead I went off and did a radiography degree. And then I specialised in ultrasound, and so I worked in the Western medical world for a few years, knowing all the time it wasn't what I really was here to do. Yeah. It's kind of like I loved the people, but I just didn't like how it was like a conveyor belt. You never had time to spend with anyone, and there was a lot about it that didn't sit right with me. So yeah, long story short, I got overwhelmed and knew I had to change things, and so I left, took a leap of faith, retrained in shiatsu, got into Chinese medicine, learned about the relationship between emotions and physical ailments, just kind of learned how interrelated everything is, learned about energy, learned about mindfulness, learned about how much power we have to impact our lives. And over the course of, I don't know, the next decade or so, I just kept doing more and more trainings, diving deeper into this energy stuff and mindfulness and meditation and yoga and all kinds of things. And in the process, I completely shifted, changed my whole life around, and as a result, that inner urge to create and write just came back kicking and screaming, you know, because I'd kind of stripped away all those layers of things I was pretending to be, and I'd become who I really was, and therefore there was no hiding this urge to write. And so yeah, the idea to write this book was born quite a few years before I actually did it. And then I very sadly lost my sister-in-law. She died of cancer, breast cancer, at 39. I already knew I wanted to write the book at the time, and we'd known she was ill for a while. And when she left us, when she emigrated over to heaven, you know, I just thought, oh man, I can't leave here without this stuff unsaid. I have to write it. I have to share it, especially as I know there were things that she left undone and unsaid when she left. And by then I'd worked for 15 years with women one-to-one as a mentor, therapist, kind of transformational work, and doing yoga stuff as well. And I just knew that this was a story that lots of people would benefit from hearing about, how I turned things around, and how they could do the same as well, so that they weren't getting to that point where they were regretting things. So yeah, that's kind of where it all came from. Hope
Oh,
of what
wow.
makes
That
sense.
sounds really like a whole journey for you. But it
Yeah,
always seems like we need some kind of wake up call that brings us back to where we're supposed to be, actually. And in this book, what is the purpose of your book? Because it consists of 8 steps.
yeah.
How is that formed?
Great question. So the 8 steps, kind of in a way, in the way that they are in the book, they presented themselves as I was writing. So I have recognized for quite a long time that there are very similar stages people go through when I work with them. And to be honest with you, I'd been trying to put it into a linear format for quite some time so that I could give people who are in the Western world, who are very head-led and need a linear thing to understand, so I could give that to them and say, look, this is the kind of journey we're going to go on, because I could never quite put it into words. And then as I was writing, I don't know, it just it just sort of fell out of my head, fell out of my heart and onto the paper, and suddenly all these strands that I'd kind of tried to create a framework from and give an official name, even though I was doing the same thing with people, it suddenly formed itself into a process that magical is an acronym for. So there's 8 steps. There's only 7 letters in the word magical. So the first one is like a preparatory step, and then the actual next steps, the letter, MAGICAL corresponds to what I was already doing anyway, but I'd created something that our Western heads could understand finally.
Yeah.
So yeah,
In a message that's understandable for everyone. And also, the book is mainly focused on women. Is that correct?
It is mainly focused on women.
Yes. What inspired you to write it for women, and why?
Yeah, great question. I love that. So it's quite a biggie, actually. There's a kind of more surface level answer to that, which is that over the years I'd primarily worked with women.
Yeah.
Because, of course, in the modern world, women are the ones trying to juggle all of the things, and there's this whole thing of we fought so hard to be regarded as equals and become more independent and get equal pay, and all of these huge issues that our ancestors have sorted out for us, so we get the benefit. But then we've kind of gone into this world where there's so much tech and there's just so much coming at us all of the time that we've almost, having gone from wanting it all, we now have too much. And we're still trying to somehow forge our way ahead, balance all these things, be Superwoman, be like, something for everybody, putting ourselves last, and then feeling like we've failed because we can't juggle way more things than any of our ancestors ever did. So that's kind of the main thing. But there is also the deal share is about how we transcend a kind of an ancestral pattern that we've carried as women, going back through the centuries, where we are the space holders and we are the givers, we are the carers, because of our inherent female qualities. But somewhere along the line, we're doing that and we're subjugating ourselves at the same time. So so trying to do my small bit to just like lovingly poke people's conscience a little bit and just get them to ask themselves some questions. So I'm not preaching at anybody. I'm just inviting some self-inquiry and inviting them to look at why they might be doing things. What's that about? Kind of. Yeah. How does that make them feel? So I take them on a journey that hopefully they'll come out the other side and they can make some shifts that will have an impact on their lives, and they'll be much happier and much more peaceful as a result.
So it's more about them understanding themselves a little bit better, and maybe they have some patterns that come from the ancestors, or that's been given on generation on generation. Do you think it's possible to step out of these patterns, and how can people do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything. It starts with awareness. You cannot change anything until you become aware of it. So, as I know, and clearly you know from various conversations I've seen that you've had through the Mindful magazine, we have so many subconscious things happening, so many subconscious beliefs and things we're not aware of, and we can't beat ourselves up for not knowing about stuff we're not even consciously aware of. But equally, we kind of know that if we then go and seek some support or some help, from people, because we become aware that we're sabotaging ourselves in certain areas of life, those things become more conscious. We become more aware of them, and awareness is key. Once you become, it's kind of like bringing something out of the dark into the light so you can see it. Yeah. And it's entirely possible. I believe it's entirely possible, because I think we are in an unprecedented time where we get to ask these questions.
Yeah. We're getting more freedom right now to explore. I think we're so lucky that we are in this time, and we need people like you writing a book that guides women or people in general to understand a bit more about themselves, because I feel that people start to wake up, or now we have this freedom. People are like, hey, what's happening? I want to have a say in this world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got the medium to do it, haven't we? Like these kind of conversations.
Yeah.
It's a gift. It's just an absolute gift. So whilst we have all this tech and all the rest of it, if we can use it more consciously to have these kind of conversations and connect with each other in different formats.
Yeah. Yeah, the internet is such an easy way to spread a message, even if you wrote a book, now we can talk about that and spreading the word. So maybe someone accidentally ends up seeing this video and thinks like, okay, maybe it's my time to change my life as well. Because it is really possible. And also, I know that you were in training with a few teachers before, a few great teachers. Could you tell me maybe a bit, how were your experiences with them? And is there something you would like to share that was maybe life-changing?
There is something that I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, I was thinking about some of the teachers I've been lucky enough to study with and train with. Some of them have been directly in person. Some of them have been in group workshop situations, but still in person. And one of the commonest threads, I think, from all of the great teachers I've studied with and trained with, that I particularly have loved, and that resonates with me daily, that I'm always reminded of if I'm having a human moment, is that, like, people like the Barefoot Doctor, who I know that I did some stuff with him. I've done a couple of workshops with him in person, but in group format, and I've done his online trainings for years, because he has a Chinese medicine background like me, so I've always loved him. And I've done some stuff in person with Sonia Choquette in workshop form, but also online with her as well. Yeah. I picked those two out because they have this very similar, slightly maverick quality to them, where they don't take themselves too seriously, and they're very much about making slightly complicated subjects really easy to understand and really accessible and fun. And they're really irreverent. They take the mickey out of themselves. They take the mickey out of people they work with. And I just love that. So I think the biggest lesson I've learned from them and from myself and from many other teachers as well is just the lesson of don't take anything too seriously, because we are, we're living on a spinning planet with a fireball at its center, relying on gravity to keep us on the ground. It's like the illusion that everything has to be taken so seriously is just coming from here, and it's utter nonsense. And, life is so much richer when you just get over yourself and have a good laugh, and just you're able to take the mickey out of yourself. And so, that's my greatest learning from them. And they're incredible teachers. Their stuff is so awesome, and it helps so many people. And they don't sit there taking themselves seriously. They just have a good laugh. So,
I think it's great. It's basically all we're learning from each other. I think it's like you're always in this student-teacher kind of mode with everyone, because you can learn, and by learning you got inspired, and by your inspiration you started writing this book. So just curious, where can we buy your book? Because I would love to read it.
Oh, thank you. It's available on all of the various Amazons. But if you want a really quick way to take a look at what it's about, and an easy place to find links to get it, you can head over to my website, which is helenrebello.com. That's rebel with an L-O on the end. And then there's it's a complicated URL, but it's like /p/book, or just go to helenrebello.com, and there's like a little gold banner at the top you can click on.
Well, on the Mindful magazine, I will place the link so they can find it there.
Awesome. So that's where. But you can order it from any bookstores. So it is one that you can order in. You can just go and get the number and order it in. Yeah.
So in your book, you're talking about the 8-step process. I'm going to go back to this a little bit more. When, maybe this is a complicated question or not, but when do you think you start knowing that you're starting to become in alignment with yourself? Or when have you discovered your true self?
Oh, that's a good, juicy question. I'm going to give what may be a slightly frustrating answer. No, I don't rehearse anything, as I said to you when we first talked to each other. So I'm just going to trust what comes out of my mouth. But my instinctive answer to that really is that, in all honesty, you won't always know. In a way, that is a clue, because there is a saying where if you think you can see your path, it's not your path. So it's like something that slowly emerges over time, and it's like coming back into alignment with yourself is like unpeeling an onion. I've always felt like that. And I've got bodywork training, and when you put your hands on people's bodies, it feels like that. Their bodies become more expansive. Their breath really, really expands as they start coming home to themselves and start getting more at home in their own bodies. And it's literally like layers and layers and layers of stuff is kind of coming away. So it's very subtle, and you can have huge shifts. I think, yes, I'm really on it. Everything's in flow. Everything will feel easy. There'll be no effort. Yeah. But then you might come up against a brick wall again, and it would be very easy to think, oh, no, I went down the wrong path. Well, no, you didn't, because every path will teach you something. And it may just be you need a pausing place, or you might need to deal with something else, or you might need to just veer off a bit to the side, and then things will feel quite challenging for a bit, and then they'll feel really easy and smooth again. But I think, that said, there is still something within us where we always actually know when we're really going against our nature or what we really want to do. We do know that. Yeah. We don't pretend we don't know it. So whilst the path will never be, I don't think it's kind of ever really clear. You might have an idea where you want to get to, but the way it will manifest is often very, very different. At the same time, you do inherently know when you're doing something that's right for you and when you're not. And if something feels really compressive and really heavy, you know, and you're having to use up a huge amount of effort to do it, it's not your thing.
No.
So, you know, there is a thing about working in your zone of genius, as opposed to your zone of excellence or your zone of competency. You know, there's all these different criteria that aren't mine, they're someone else's. And definitely when you're in your zone of genius and you're in your kind of aligned flowing state, you will feel that, because everything is effortless and it's joyful as well.
Yeah.
But it's nothing static. So you might come, you know, ebb and flow.
Yeah, it won't be all at once. It might be steps unfolding, you're saying. So maybe with some patience and we need some time, and then the steps will unfold slowly.
Yeah, definitely. And people don't want to hear that. They want everything to just change like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be me if I sat here and said it was that easy. But some people do change super quickly because they're so ready. So I have worked with, you know, some clients who've come to me just knowing that they have to change something.
Yeah.
And they're usually the ones that approach me. I don't really do much one-to-one work right now because I've done it for 15 years and I'm moving into honouring my writer more now, and I'm teaching in groups because I love the energy of the group. But, you know, they'll come to me, they'll seek me out, and they'll just say they just know they're ready to change something. And they will exponentially shift. And, you know, in the space, it'll still be maybe a year, but in a year, you know, you can look at that person and just, it's like you look at the person, then you look at the person they've become in a year, and it's like two different people, and it's mind-blowingly amazing. But
it's true. I think sometimes we're waiting so long for something to change that it just has to crash into your life almost. You're not taking the signs. Change now. We're going to do now something that has a bigger impact.
Yeah, it's true. It's weird, isn't it? What is it about us humans that we have to wait? I've done it. I've had so many signs. But...
Same for me. I was ignoring them as well. I was like, no, I don't want to do all this mindfulness and things. No. I know so many other things that I would love to do.
Yes, and the thing is, it's scary as well, right? You know, it's like you're changing your paradigm, aren't you? And people get very scared about leaving the old behind and embracing the new. But I think if it's not working for you, you know, and it's only ever going to get harder to break out of it. So you just have to make baby steps and start small and do something.
And the information in your book, is it also based on the sessions that you had? Because you said 15 years of counseling or mentoring people. That must have had a great impact.
Yeah, and you know, you said earlier that we are all each other's teachers.
Yeah.
So, you know, most of the women I've worked with are women who were where I used to be, and I worked a lot with service sector women, so in the medical profession or police, teachers, you know, people who are inherently giving, and also not necessarily paid very well, or, you know, kind of a bit put upon because they're very giving people. And so I could understand where they were coming from, but at the same time, I learned so much from them. I'm so grateful for the fact that they trusted me to, you know, to walk alongside them, to be their kind of guide, their facilitator, to witness their processes, to support them. And at the same time, just to learn about human compassion and, you know, and strength and just all of these gorgeous qualities that we all have. Every single one of us has these qualities. And the biggest one is courage. I've learned so much from them all about courage and digging deep when it gets tough, because at first when you start to change things, it can be a little bit challenging. Again, I'm not going to lie about that. You know, it's like I'm having my bathroom completely remodeled right now because it was really horrible. And the thing is, you can't have a brand new bathroom until you've ripped out all the old bathroom. And there's that horrible period in the middle where everything's all over the place and dusty and messy, and it just looks horrible. And, you know.
And you need to save money maybe for your new kitchen, new bathroom.
Wait a year with a horrible bathroom. But it's kind of a bit like that when you go on any journey. You have to be prepared to go through that little messy bit where it might feel a bit uncomfortable, because you're sort of trying on a new way of being, which is really your natural way of being. It's just you're not used to it. So but God, it's worth it when you come out the other side. And I've seen so many clients do that, and I just, to this day, I'm so honored that I got to be part of that, and I'm so proud of them all, but not in a patronizing way, which I hope comes across.
That's amazing. And what we would like to know is there another book coming? Are you gonna
Of course. So many people have asked me this, and I love it because I think actually halfway through writing, I already knew what the next one would be. I've got another 2 in the pipeline, so they'll be very much exploring some of the things we've talked about and some of the things in the book a little bit more deeply. And one of them will be about midlife. And the opportunities it gives you. And one of them will be about ancestral energy.
So we will talk again then.
Yes, I'm not saying any more.
I hope so, yeah. At last, could you give to all the women out there, maybe some men that are watching, how can you go through daily life and try to stay as much to yourself as possible? Just give one small tip or 2.
I would say start recognizing that you are as worthy as anybody else, and that you have as much right to be here as anybody else, and that you're not broken, you haven't failed, you've got nothing to prove, you don't have to work extra hard to be worthy. You're already worthy as you are good enough as you are. And if you can start embodying that belief within you and remind yourself of it daily, you'll be so much better at also seeing that in other people, which enriches your relationships, but also recognizing that you have a right to say no when you want to, say yes when you want to, you know. And not just give and give nothing to yourself. So so
think about yourself as well. Give, but think about yourself. And I think it was beautifully said, really. Thank you so much. I'm so happy I spoke to you on the channel. And for everyone who's watching, HelenRebello.com, her website. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to keep track of new interviews and videos coming up, please subscribe to my channel. And who knows, Helen might pop out again with one of her new books, because we certainly want to know more about her. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy I met you. Thank you. I wish you a great day.
And you.
Thank you.
Thank you.